The stars twinkled against the vast darkness of space as the Keplerian ship Cloudweaver drifted slowly toward the unknown vessel. Science Officer Day pressed his webbed hand against the viewing panel, his pale blue skin reflecting the distant starlight. The ship ahead was unlike any he had seen before, blocky and practical rather than the smooth, fluid designs of Keplerian vessels. "Captain Sun, the alien ship is maintaining position," reported the navigation officer. "They are broadcasting communication signals again." Captain Sun nodded, her translucent fins rippling with anticipation. "Accept their transmission. Let us see what these strangers want." The main screen flickered to life, showing a creature with dark eyes, brownish skin, and strange fur growing from the top of its head. No fins, no gills, and apparently dry. The Keplerians in the command center murmured in surprise. "Greetings," the creature said, its voice being processed through the translation system. "I am Ambassador Jin of the Earth vessel Thermopylae. We come in peace and seek friendship." Captain Sun stepped forward. "I am Captain Sun of the Keplerian Exploration Fleet. We also seek peaceful contact." Ambassador Jin smiled, showing white teeth. "Our captain suggests a meeting between our ships. Would you be willing to send representatives, or would you prefer we come to you?" After a brief discussion among the command staff, both sides agreed to exchange small delegations. The Keplerians would visit the human ship first, followed by a human visit to the Cloudweaver. Science Officer Day adjusted his hydration suit nervously as he prepared to board the human shuttle. The suit was a thin membrane that kept his sensitive skin moist and regulated his body temperature, within the crucial half-degree range that all Keplerians required for comfort and health. "Remember," Captain Sun said, checking Day's suit. "Observe everything. We need to understand these humans if we are to establish good relations." "Yes, Captain," Day replied. "I have calibrated my instruments to record atmospheric conditions, biological readings, and cultural observations." The small team of 5 Keplerians entered the airlock and waited as it cycled to match the atmosphere in the human shuttle. When the doors opened, they were greeted by Ambassador Jin and 2 other humans. "Welcome," Jin said with a slight bow. "This is Communications Officer Lee and Security Chief Kang." The humans were not wearing any kind of environmental suits, which amazed Day. How could they survive without controlled conditions? Their skin appeared dry and firm, nothing like the delicate, moisture-dependent skin of Keplerians. The shuttle journey was brief, but fascinating. Day recorded everything while trying not to stare too obviously at the humans. They seemed to generate their own body heat, another strange concept for the cold-blooded Keplerians. The human ship Thermopylae was much warmer than the Cloudweaver, though still within tolerable limits for the Keplerians' suits. Ambassador Jin led them on a tour, showing them the bridge, science labs, and hydroponics bay. "And this is our mess hall," Jin explained as a door slid open to reveal a large room where several humans sat at tables, consuming various substances. "You ingest solid material?" Day asked, fascinated. "Keplerians absorb nutrients directly through their skin from nutrient-rich water." "Yes, we eat food 3 times daily," Jin explained. "Would you like to observe our food preparation?" The Keplerians followed Jin to an area at the back of the mess hall, where a human was working at a counter surrounded by various containers and devices. "This is Yoon, one of our chefs," Jin said. The human named Yoon nodded politely to the visitors. I am preparing tea for the captain," Yoon explained. "It's a traditional drink from Earth." Day watched with scientific curiosity as Yoon placed dried plant material into small mesh containers. Then the human did something that made every Keplerian in the room freeze in horror. Yoon took a metal container, placed it on a heating element, and activated it. Within minutes, the liquid inside began to bubble violently. "Stop!" Day cried out, his translator barely keeping up with his panicked voice. "That's dangerous." The humans looked confused as the Keplerians backed away from the counter. "What's wrong?" Jin asked, genuinely concerned. Captain Sun stepped forward protectively. "Your crew member is handling boiling water. That's lethal." Now it was the humans' turn to look shocked. Jin glanced at the kettle, then back at the frightened aliens. Boiling water is dangerous to you? She asked slowly. Of course, Day replied, fins trembling. Even a temperature change of 5 degrees can cause severe pain and tissue damage to our species. Boiling water would instantly kill any Keplerian it touched. The room fell silent as both species stared at each other in new understanding. Then, to the Keplerian's absolute horror, Yoon reached out and briefly touched the side of the metal container. See? It's hot, but it doesn't hurt me if I'm quick, Yoon said, apparently trying to reassure them. Captain Han entered the mess hall at that moment, noting the tense atmosphere immediately. Is everything all right, Ambassador? Before Jin could answer, the kettle made a high-pitched sound indicating the water had fully boiled. Yoon calmly lifted it and poured the violently steaming water over the plant material in a clear container. Captain Sun made a strangled sound of terror. The other Keplerians were frozen in place, utterly shocked by what they were witnessing. Captain Han, Jin said carefully, we've just discovered an important cultural difference. It seems that boiling water is deadly to Keplerians. Han raised his eyebrows. Really? I had no idea. He turned to the visitors. Please forgive us for frightening you. Temperature variations that are comfortable for humans might be dangerous for your species. Dai couldn't take his eyes off the clear container where the water was turning a dark color from the plant material. The human called Yoon was acting as if there wasn't a deadly substance right in front of them. Don't worry, Jin said gently. No one will bring hot liquids near you. We should have asked about environmental needs before the tour. But the damage was done. The Keplerians now viewed humans as creatures of incredible resilience, or reckless disregard for safety. Either way, these aliens were clearly more dangerous than they initially appeared. Perhaps, Captain Sun said stiffly, we should continue the tour in less hazardous areas of your ship. As they left the mess hall, Day noticed Captain Han taking the container of hot liquid and actually drinking from it. He recorded this observation with a special note. Humans not only handle deadly temperature variations but willingly put them inside their bodies. The rest of the tour was tense. The Keplerians stayed close together, watching the humans with new caution. When they returned to their shuttle, Captain Sun immediately called for a meeting. These humans, she said once they were safely back, on the Cloudweaver, are either incredibly durable or completely insane. They handle temperatures that would kill us instantly, and they do it without special equipment. Day reviewed his recordings. Their ship maintains temperatures that fluctuate by more than 15 degrees in different sections. They don't seem to notice. Are they a threat? Asked one of the security officers. Captain Sun considered this. Not intentionally, I think, but their casual relationship with temperature makes them dangerous. If they don't understand our needs, they could kill us by accident. Day couldn't stop thinking about the boiling water. Captain, with your permission, I'd like to learn more about human physiology. If we're going to establish relations with them, we need to understand how they can survive such extreme conditions. Captain Sun nodded slowly. Agreed. But proceed. With caution, Science Officer Day. These humans are unlike any species we've encountered before. As the Keplerian ship's lights dimmed to simulate night, Day sat at his research station, reviewing the data from their visit. On his screen was an image of Ambassador Jin drinking from a cup of the hot liquid, completely unharmed by something that would have melted Keplerian flesh instantly. What other deadly things could these humans endure? And what would happen when they learned just how fragile Keplerians were by comparison? 3 weeks had passed since the first meeting between humans and Keplerians. Now, a special space station hung in orbit between their ships. The station had 2 separate sections, one for each species, with their own life support systems. Science Officer Day floated in his water-filled observation chamber. Through the clear wall, he could see Ambassador Jin sitting on the dry human side. They spoke through communication devices. Thank you for agreeing to these studies, Day said. His fins moved gently in the water. We have much to learn about each other. Jin smiled. That's why we're here. Understanding differences helps build friendship. Day's assistant, Medical Officer Ray, swam into the chamber carrying a data tablet. The human biological scans are complete, she said with excitement in her voice. May we share our findings with you? Day asked Jin. Of course. I'm curious about what you've discovered. Ray displayed the tablet so Jin could see it through the clear wall. Your skin is remarkable, she said. It has multiple layers that protect your internal organs. Our skin is only 2 cells thick. Jin nodded. That's why temperature changes hurt you so much. For us, our skin insulates and protects. Day moved closer to the wall. But that doesn't explain everything. According to our scans, humans have more nerve endings than Keplerians. You should feel pain more, not less. Pain is both physical and mental, Jin explained. Humans can train themselves to accept certain kinds of discomfort. This concept fascinated Day. Pain was simply pain to Keplerians, a warning to be heeded immediately. We have arranged something special today, Jin said. With your permission, Chef Yun will demonstrate cooking in a way you can observe safely. Day felt both fear and curiosity. As long as we remain separated by this wall, we agree. The demonstration area had been set up with cameras so the Keplerians could watch from their water-filled observation room. On multiple screens, they could see Chef Yun and her cooking equipment. Today I will make a traditional human soup, Yun explained. It requires boiling water, but I will show each step slowly. A group of 20 Keplerians watched with a mixture of horror and fascination. Many had never seen the first contact incident, but had heard stories about the deadly temperatures humans could withstand. Yun filled a large pot with water and placed it on a heating element. First, we bring water to a boil, she explained. That means heating it to 100 degrees Celsius. The Keplerians murmured in shock. Their home world's oceans never varied by more than 3 degrees Celsius. The idea of water being 100 degrees was almost unimaginable. As the water began to bubble, several Keplerians moved back from the screens. But Day forced himself to keep watching, recording everything for scientific study. Now I add vegetables, which will soften in the hot water. Yun continued. She picked up a knife and began cutting plant materials. Their tools are so primitive, whispered Ray. Keplerians used sonic waves to prepare their nutrient solutions, never physically touching their food. Yun dropped the cut vegetables into the boiling water. Next came pieces of meat and dried herbs. The soup began to take color and form. Humans consume parts of other animals? Asked a young Keplerian named Jay, who had joined the science team out of curiosity about the aliens. Yes, Day confirmed. Their bodies require solid proteins and other nutrients they get from plants and animals. After 30 minutes of cooking, Yun poured some soup into a bowl. She lifted a spoon, blew gently on the liquid, and then put it in her mouth. The Keplerians watched in stunned silence. She is consuming a liquid that would dissolve our flesh, Ray said quietly. Jin entered the frame and accepted a bowl of soup. Thank you, Chef Yun. This smells wonderful. After the cooking demonstration, Jin spoke directly to the Keplerians again. Do you have questions about what you saw? Day had prepared a list. Yes. First, how do humans tolerate such heat inside their bodies? Our mouths and digestive systems are lined with protective tissues, Jin explained. We can feel when something is too hot, but we can handle much higher temperatures than your species. Do you experience no pain at all? Asked Ray. Jin laughed. Oh, we definitely feel pain. If the soup was much hotter, it would burn us. We just have a much higher threshold than Keplerians. Young Jay moved forward. Ambassador Jin, is it true that humans sometimes voluntarily expose their entire bodies to high temperatures? Jin nodded. Yes, we have something called saunas and hot springs. Would you like to see images? The screens changed to show humans sitting in steaming water or in small wooden rooms filled with hot air. The Keplerians were speechless. This is considered enjoyable? Day finally asked. Very much so, Jin replied. The heat relaxes our muscles and helps us release stress. Different human cultures have enjoyed hot baths for thousands of years. The concept was so alien to the Keplerians that several of them needed to swim away to process this information. To voluntarily submerge in hot water seemed like an act of madness. Later that day, Day met with Captain Sun in her private chambers aboard the Keplerian ship. Their resilience is even greater than we thought, Day reported. They not only tolerate high temperatures but seek them out for pleasure. Captain Sun's fins fluttered with concern. And you believe this is not a sign of aggression or superiority display? No, Captain. It's simply part of their biology and culture. They evolved on a planet with much greater temperature variations than ours. Can we trust being so different from ourselves? Sun asked. If they cannot understand our fragility, they could harm us without meaning to. Day had been thinking about this question since the first meeting. I believe we can learn from each other. Their adaptability and our precision could be complementary. Strengths. Captain Sun didn't look convinced. The data tablet on her desk showed human body scans with their thick skin, complex temperature regulation systems, and remarkable healing abilities. We have received a request, she said finally. The human captain wants to establish a joint research mission to study a volcanic moon in this system. They believe both our species could contribute valuable perspectives. Day felt excitement rising in him. That would be an unprecedented opportunity, Captain. It would also be dangerous. The moon has temperature variations that would kill a Keplerian instantly without protection. But with human help and our technology, we might safely study environments we could never approach before, Day argued. Captain Sun was silent for a long moment. Then she said, I will consider it. But first, I want more information about these humans and their relationship with heat. As Day left the captain's chambers, he passed the medical lab where Ray was studying the human biological data. On her screen was a thermal image of a human drinking hot liquid, showing how the heat moved through their body without causing damage. Fascinating, isn't it? Ray said when she noticed Day. Their bodies don't just tolerate heat, they generate it. Constantly, humans maintain a steady internal temperature of about 37 degrees Celsius. Day's scientific mind was racing with possibilities. Do you think we could ever understand what it feels like to be them? To not fear temperature changes? Perhaps not. Through experience, Ray replied. But through science, we might understand almost anything. As Day returned to his quarters, he thought about the cooking demonstration. Humans had evolved in a world of extremes and had conquered them. What other impossible things might they be capable of? And what could Keplerians learn from these strange, heat-resistant beings? The answer, he suspected, would change both their species forever. The research station orbiting the volcanic moon of Pyrax was a marvel of joint engineering. One half was built to Keplerian specifications, with perfect temperature control and water-filled corridors. The other half was designed by humans, with dry rooms and variable heating zones. In the center was a shared laboratory with special barriers and safety systems. Day floated in the observation room, watching the moon below. Its surface glowed red in places where lava flowed freely. To a Keplerian, it looked like a vision of hell. Beautiful, isn't it? Said Min, the human engineer who had joined him. She stood on the dry side of the room, separated by the clear barrier. Beautiful is not the word I would use, Day replied. Terrifying, perhaps. Min laughed. I suppose it depends on your perspective. On Earth we have many volcanoes. Some humans even live near them. Day's fins fluttered in surprise. You build homes near such danger? The soil near volcanoes is very good for growing food, Min explained. Humans often accept risk for benefit. Their conversation was interrupted by a flashing light on the control panel. Min checked the readings. That's strange, she said. There's a power fluctuation in the station's central core. Day moved to his own control panel. The temperature regulators are showing unusual patterns. Before they could investigate further, a loud alarm blared through the station. Red lights began flashing in both sections. Emergency, station core temperature rising. Cooling systems compromised. All personnel report to emergency stations. The computer voice repeated the message in both human and Keplerian languages. Day felt a wave of fear. For Keplerians, temperature control wasn't just comfort, it was survival. We need to get to the central control room, Min said. already moving toward the door. Captain Sun gathered her Keplerian crew in their section's main hall. Their blue skin looked pale under the emergency lights. "The main cooling system has failed," she announced. "Backup systems are working at 60% capacity but failing. Current estimates show we have 3 hours before temperatures in our section become lethal." Young scientist Jay raised a hand. "What about evacuation?" "The shuttle bay doors are malfunctioning," Sun replied. "Engineering teams are working on them, but they may not be fixed in time." On the human side, Captain Han was having a similar meeting with his crew. "The central cooling system needs manual repairs," he explained. "The problem is in a section between our two areas. It's already reaching temperatures that are dangerous for humans and lethal for Keplerians." Ambassador Jin frowned. "Can we use remote drones?" Engineer Min shook her head. "The repair requires hands-on work with the main valves and circuit boards. Drones aren't precise enough." Captain Han looked grim. "I'm calling for volunteers. This will be dangerous work in extreme heat." Min stepped forward immediately. "I'll go. I've worked in high-temperature environments before." 3 other humans also volunteered. They began preparing heat-resistant suits while Captain Han contacted the Keplerian section. Captain Sun was horrified by the human plan. "You're sending your people into temperatures that will kill them," she protested over the communication screen. "The suits will protect them for short periods," Captain Han explained. "It's our only option unless the shuttle bay doors are fixed soon." Sun's fins trembled. "This is madness. No Keplerian would survive such conditions even for seconds." "We're not Keplerians," Han said simply. "We can handle it." As the humans prepared for their mission, Day approached the barrier separating the two sections. Min was putting on her protective suit on the other side. "Is it true you're going into the overheated section?" Day asked. Min nodded as she checked her suit's seals. "Someone has to fix the cooling system. The temperature there is over 70 degrees Celsius now," Day said. "Even with your resistance to heat, isn't that too much?" Min finished securing her helmet. "It's definitely dangerous, but my suit will help, and I'll work fast." Day couldn't understand this willingness to risk death. "Why you? Why not send more drones?" "Because I'm the best engineer we have," Min said simply. "And sometimes you have to take risks to save others." Before Day could respond, an explosion shook the station. Lights flickered and new alarms began to sound. "Water cooling pipe rupture in Section 4, announced the computer. "Warning, extreme temperature hazard." The situation had just become much worse. Hot water from the damaged cooling system was spilling into corridors near the central core. For humans, it was dangerous. For Keplerians, it meant certain death. Captain Sun received the news with horror. "The backup cooling system is failing faster now. We have less than 1 hour before our section reaches lethal temperatures." In the human section, the volunteer team was ready to move out. They stood at the airlock leading to the damaged area, wearing their heat-resistant suits. "Remember, you have 20 minutes maximum exposure time," Captain Han told them. "After that, the suits won't protect you adequately." Min nodded inside her helmet. "We'll work in shifts, 10 minutes each, then swap out." The airlock opened, releasing a wave of hot air that the humans could feel even through their suits. They stepped forward into temperatures that would boil a Keplerian alive. Day and other Keplerians watched on monitors as the humans entered the superheated area. It seemed impossible that any living thing could survive there. "Their suits must be remarkable," Ray said, her medical training making her curious despite the danger. "The suits help, but they're still feeling the heat," Jay pointed out. "Look at their vital signs." The monitors showed elevated heart rates and body temperatures for all 4 humans. They were suffering, but they kept working. Min reached the main cooling control panel and began repairs. Her hands moved quickly despite the bulky gloves. After 8 minutes, the heat inside her suit had risen to dangerous levels. "Min, you need to rotate out," Captain Han's voice said through her helmet. "Almost done with this section," she replied, her voice strained. "Just 2 more minutes." Suddenly, a secondary pipe burst nearby, spraying near-boiling water across the corridor. One of the other humans was hit and fell back, the suit protecting them from serious burns but the impact knocking them down. Min ignored the danger and kept working. She had opened the main panel and was rewiring the control system by hand. Sweat poured down her face inside her helmet, and warning lights flashed on her suit's display. "Min, get out now," Captain Han ordered. "Almost there," she gasped. Her fingers connected the final wire and the system lights changed from red to yellow. Cooling system reset initiated. As the injured human was helped back to the airlock, Min stayed to make sure the system was stabilizing. The temperature was already starting to drop, but too slowly. Then another pipe joint failed, sending a spray of hot water directly at Min. She turned away, but some got on her suit. A warning alarm shrieked in her helmet as the suit's outer layer was damaged. "Min, your suit integrity is compromised. Exit immediately," Captain Han shouted through the comm. Min staggered toward the airlock, the temperature inside her suit rising rapidly. She was only halfway there when she collapsed to her knees. In the Keplerian section, Day watched in horror. "She's going to die," he whispered. Beside him, young Jay was shaking. "They're sacrificing themselves for the station. For us." Through the monitor, they saw one of the other humans rush back into the superheated area. Despite the danger to himself, he grabbed Min and dragged her toward the airlock. Both humans collapsed inside just as the door sealed shut. Medical teams rushed to treat the injured humans. Min was unconscious, her skin red from heat exposure. The doctors worked quickly, applying cooling treatments and medicine. In the control room, the systems were starting to stabilize. The temperature was dropping slowly throughout the station. "They did it," Captain Sun said, her voice filled with awe. "They fixed the cooling system." Day couldn't stop thinking about what he had witnessed. Humans had willingly entered conditions that meant instant death to Keplerians. They had endured pain and risked their lives, and they had done it partly to save the Keplerians. As the emergency lights finally switched off and normal operations resumed, Captain Sun turned to her officers. "I believe," she said slowly, "that we have much to learn from these humans." In the medical bay of the human section, Min lay unconscious but stable. The doctor said she would recover with time. Captain Han stood by her bed, his face serious. "She's a hero," Ambassador Jin said, joining him. "Yes," Han agreed. "But the Keplerians think we're either insanely brave or just insane." Jin smiled slightly. "Maybe a bit of both, but they're starting to understand us better now." Outside in the corridor, young Jay had convinced Day to bring him to the human section to see the injured heroes. As they watched through a window, both Keplerians wondered about these strange creatures who could walk through fire and survive, and what it might mean for the future of both their species. 3 days had passed since the cooling system crisis. The research station was functioning normally again, but relations between humans and Keplerians had changed dramatically. Min lay in the medical bay, her skin still red and blistered in places. Dr. Su checked her vital signs and adjusted the cooling packs on her worst burns. "The treatments are working well," Su told her. "Your burns are healing faster than expected." Min tried to sit up but winced in pain. "When can I return to duty?" "Not for at least another week," Su said firmly. "Heat injuries take time to heal properly." The door to the medical bay opened and Ambassador Jin entered with 2 Keplerians. One was Science Officer Day, now a familiar face. The other was an older Keplerian with elaborate fins and formal markings on his blue skin. "Engineer Min," Jin said. "I hope we're not disturbing you. This is Elder Q, who has arrived from the Keplerian homeworld to evaluate our alliance." Min understood what wasn't being said. After the dangerous incident, the Keplerian leadership was questioning whether humans were too reckless to work with. "I am pleased to meet you, Elder Q," Min said politely. The elder Keplerian moved closer, his eyes studying her burned skin with obvious fascination. "You willingly entered temperatures that would have killed a Keplerian instantly," he said, his translator giving his words a formal tone. "Someone needed to fix the cooling system," Min replied simply. "Was there no other option?" Q asked. "None that would have worked in time." Q turned to Day. "And you witnessed this human's actions?" Day's fins fluttered nervously. Yes, Elder. Engineer Min stayed in the superheated area longer than was safe, even by human standards. She prioritized fixing the system over her own safety. Fascinating, Q said, and disturbing. Later that day, Elder Q met with Captain Han and Ambassador Jin in the human conference room. Captain Sun joined from the Keplerian side via video link. My government is concerned, Q began without preamble. The incident 3 days ago showed humans taking risks that seem reckless to us. The risk was calculated, Captain Han replied. Our engineers knew the limits of their protective gear and their bodies. Q's fins rippled in what the humans now recognized as a sign of disagreement. They exceeded those limits. Your engineer Min nearly died. But she didn't, Jin pointed out. And her actions saved everyone on this station, both human and Keplerian. This is the point my government struggles to understand, Q said. Why would an individual risk death for others, especially for aliens whose species they barely know? The humans exchanged glances. The question revealed something fundamental about Keplerian culture. It's part of who we are, Jin said finally. Humans have always pushed boundaries, including the boundaries of our own bodies. May I show Elder Q some of our historical records? Asked Captain Han. Q agreed, and Han displayed images on the main screen. They showed humans in extreme environments throughout history, early explorers in the Arctic, climbers on Earth's highest mountains, divers in the deepest oceans. These are not special humans, Han explained. They are ordinary people who trained their bodies and minds to endure extreme conditions. By Keplerian standards, all humans are special, Q said. Your tolerance for temperature alone makes you unique among species we have encountered. In the medical bay, Dr. Su was explaining human medical treatments to Medical Officer Ray. Day had joined them out of scientific curiosity. For some injuries, we actually use heat or cold as treatment, Su explained, showing a heat pack. Controlled temperature can help the body heal faster. Ray looked shocked. You deliberately apply temperature extremes to injured tissue? Yes. For example, ice reduces swelling in fresh injuries. Heat helps with muscle pain. Day watched as Su demonstrated by placing a warm compress on a patient's sore shoulder. The human looked relieved, not pained. I have a theory, Day said suddenly. Humans don't just tolerate temperature variations, you need them. Your biology has evolved to use temperature as a tool. Su nodded. That's an interesting way to put it. Our bodies regulate temperature constantly, raising it to fight infection and lowering it to preserve energy. Incredible, Ray whispered. Temperature is your ally, not your enemy. In his private quarters, young Jay was conducting a secret experiment. He had programmed the environmental controls to gradually increase the water temperature in his small, personal pool. Standard Keplerian temperature was 15 degrees Celsius. He had already adapted to 16 degrees without pain. Computer increased temperature by 0.2 degrees, he said quietly. Warning, temperature will exceed recommended levels for Keplerian physiology, the computer responded. Override. Authorization, J Science 3. The temperature rose slowly. Jay felt the warmth spreading through the water. It was uncomfortable but not painful. Not yet. He wondered how far he could push before his body's limits were reached. The humans had shown that limits could be extended through training and determination. A chime at his door interrupted his experiment. Reset standard temperature, he ordered quickly before calling. Enter. The door opened to reveal Elder Q, with Captain Sun. Jay quickly rose from his pool and bowed respectfully. Elder Captain, this is unexpected. Scientist J, Q said. I'm told you have spent significant time studying the humans since first contact. Yes, Elder. They are fascinating. And you witnessed Engineer Min's actions during the crisis, Jay? Nodded. I did. She showed incredible courage. Courage or recklessness? Q asked. Jay considered his answer carefully. Among Keplerians, it would be reckless because certain death would result. For humans with their different biology, it was calculated courage. Q's expression was unreadable. Captain Sun tells me you have expressed unusual interest in human. Adaptability. Had someone discovered his temperature experiments? Jay tried to keep his fins still to hide his nervousness. I believe we have much to learn from them, he said carefully. Ambassador Jin had arranged something special for Elder Q, a demonstration of human relaxation techniques. In a specially constructed room with clear barriers, humans were showing both hot and cold treatments. This is what we call a spa, Jin explained as Q and other curious Keplerians watched from their water-filled observation room. It includes both hot and cold therapies. On one side of the human room was a large tub of steaming water. On the other was a tub filled with ice and water. Humans moved between them, looking relaxed and comfortable. The hot tub is heated to 40 degrees Celsius, Jin said. The cold tub is just above freezing at 2 degrees. We find the contrast invigorating. Q's expression showed pure disbelief. You subject yourselves to a 38-degree temperature variation. For pleasure? Yes. The heat relaxes muscles and the cold reduces inflammation. Together they improve circulation and overall health. As they watched, a human submerged completely in the hot water, then climbed out and immediately jumped into the cold tub. Several Keplerians made sounds of alarm. How is this not torture? Q asked, genuinely confused. Jin smiled. For you, it would be. For us, it's therapy. Our relationship with temperature is fundamentally different from yours. Q was silent, for a long time, watching the humans move between extremes with obvious enjoyment. I think I understand now, he said finally. You don't merely tolerate what would kill us. You embrace it. You have turned a deadly threat into a source of strength and pleasure. That's a very insightful way to put it, Jin replied. That evening, Elder Q met with the Keplerian staff alone. His formal review would determine the future of human-Keplerian relations. These humans, he began, are unlike any species we have encountered. Their physical resilience is extraordinary by our standards. Is that good or bad, Elder? Captain Sun asked. Neither. It is simply different. Q's fins moved in a pattern that indicated deep thought. Their willingness to risk themselves for others is both admirable and concerning. Day spoke up. Elder, I believe their adaptability complements our precision. Together, we could explore environments neither of us could alone. Q looked at each Keplerian in turn. My initial assessment was that humans might be too dangerous as allies. Their casual relationship with deadly temperature seemed reckless. The room was silent, waiting for his conclusion. However, Q continued, I now see that what appears reckless to us is calculated courage to them. They know their limits and choose when to push them. He turned to Captain Sun. I will recommend that our alliance continue, with added safety protocols. We have much to learn from each other. The tension in the room eased. Day and Ray exchanged relieved glances. Young Jay spoke up. Elder Q, would it be permitted to study whether Keplerians might safely extend our own temperature tolerance, in small increments, with proper medical supervision? The elder looked surprised by the question. Such research would challenge our most basic cultural taboos about temperature. Yes, Elder, Jay said, not backing down. But the humans have shown us that sometimes growth requires challenging old limitations. Q was silent for a long moment. Then his fins rippled in what humans would recognize as a smile. Perhaps, he said, that is the most valuable lesson the humans have to teach us. 6 months had passed since the crisis on the research station. The relationship between humans and Keplerians had grown stronger through shared work and understanding. Now, a new joint mission was about to begin. The exploration of planet Thermex, a world of extreme temperature variations. The exploration ship Unity hung in orbit above the planet. Unlike previous vessels, it had been designed from the beginning for both species to work together. Special corridors allowed Keplerians to swim between sections, while humans walked through dry passages alongside them. In the main control room, Day adjusted his new environmental suit. It was much more advanced than the simple hydration suits Keplerians had used before meeting humans. This one could protect against temperature changes of up to 10 degrees, still tiny by human standards, but revolutionary for Keplerians. Final checks complete, Day announced. The landing teams are ready. Captain Sun and Captain Han stood side by side, looking at the planet display. Thermex was a world of contrasts, ice-covered poles and boiling equatorial regions with vast oceans between. Team assignments are confirmed, said Han. Keplerian teams will explore the temperate oceans. Human teams will investigate the extreme zones. Sun nodded. And the joint teams will work at the boundaries where environments meet. Engineer Min, fully recovered from her injuries, entered the control room with thermal specialist Hoon. Between them was young Jay, now officially the lead researcher on Keplerian temperature adaptation. The new environmental suits are ready, Min reported. Both standard and experimental versions. Jay looked excited but nervous. He had spent months carefully training his body to handle wider temperature ranges. It was still minimal by human standards. He could now tolerate water temperature from 14 to 18 degrees Celsius without pain. But no Keplerian in recorded history had achieved such adaptation. Are you sure you want to join the boundary team? Dai asked him. You don't have to prove anything. I'm sure, Jay replied. How can I ask others to expand their limits if I won't try myself? The descent vehicles separated from the Unity, each heading to different regions of Thermex. Dai traveled with the joint team that included Min, Hoon, and Jay. Their target was a coastal region where warm oceans met hot land. Their vehicle landed on a rocky beach. Outside, steam rose where hot rocks met the water. Environmental readings are stable. In the landing zone, reported Hoon. Air temperature is 45 degrees Celsius. Water temperature varies from 20 to 35 degrees depending on distance from the shore. For humans, these were manageable conditions. For Keplerians, the air was deadly, and even the water was far too hot, except at the farthest points from shore. Day checked Jay's special suit one last time. Remember, at the first sign of discomfort, you return to the standard temperature zone. No exceptions. Jay nodded. I understand the protocols. The humans exited first, setting up monitoring equipment along the beach. They wore light cooling suits to make the heat more comfortable but could have survived without them if necessary. The Keplerians remained in their water-filled compartment of the landing vehicle, watching through viewing panels and on screens. Only Jay prepared to venture into the warmer waters protected by his experimental suit. Commencing water test, Hoon announced. Current temperature at test zone is 22 degrees Celsius. This was 7 degrees higher than standard Keplerian comfort. Before their contact with humans, no Keplerian would have even considered entering such water. Jay stepped into the small airlock that would take him outside. Water filled the chamber, starting at 15 degrees and slowly rising to match the external temperature. On the monitoring screens, everyone could see Jay's vital signs. His heart rate increased as the water warmed, but remained within safe parameters. How do you feel? Day asked through the communication system. Warm, Jay replied. Very warm, but not painful yet. When the airlock reached 22 degrees, the outer door opened. Jay swam cautiously into the waters of Thermex. While the joint team worked at the boundary zone, the human teams were exploring the hot regions near the planet's equator. There, natural hot springs bubbled at temperatures approaching boiling point. Thermal specialist Hoon received their reports with excitement. The equatorial team has discovered something remarkable, he told the others. The hot springs contain mineral formations unlike anything we've seen before. Are they natural or artificial? Min asked, looking up from her equipment. That's the interesting part, Hoon replied. They appear to be both, natural formations that have been modified. Captain Sun's voice came through the communication system from the orbiting ship. Are you suggesting intelligent life on Thermex? Possibly ancient life, Hoon said. The modifications appear very old. This news changed the mission priorities immediately. If Thermex had once supported intelligent life, understanding what happened to that civilization became crucial. 3 days later, the exploration teams had made significant discoveries. The human teams had found more modified structures near the hot springs. All were located in areas too hot for Keplerians to safely visit. In the boundary zone, Jay had successfully adapted to brief swims in 23-degree water. Each day he pushed slightly farther toward the warmer areas, always under careful supervision. "There's something unusual about the mineral patterns," Jay reported after his latest swim. "They form lines leading toward the hot springs." Min had been analyzing samples from both the boundary zone and the equatorial region. "The mineral composition is similar across all sites," she said. "I think these were all part of one large system." Day looked at the combined data from all teams. What if the entire planet was once a single habitat? The hot regions and temperate waters connected somehow. But how could any species survive in both environments? Captain Sun asked during the evening briefing. "The temperature difference is too extreme." Hoon had been unusually quiet, studying ancient markings found near one of the hot springs. Now he spoke up. "What if they weren't one species? What if they were two species working together, like us?" The breakthrough came on the 10th day of exploration. The human team at the equatorial region discovered a large underground chamber beneath one of the hot springs. Inside were preserved artifacts and wall markings. "We've partially translated the pictographic language," reported the team leader. "It appears to tell a story of two species, one living in hot regions, one in cooler waters. They built technologies to work together despite their different environmental needs." In the boundary zone, Jay had discovered similar markings underwater. "The patterns match," he confirmed after seeing the images from the hot springs. "Both tell parts of the same story." Day and Min worked together to combine the findings from all teams. Slowly, the ancient story of Thermex emerged. Two intelligent species evolved on this planet, Day explained during the full mission briefing. One thrived in heat, like humans. One required cool, stable temperatures, like Keplerians. According to these records, Min continued, they developed an advanced civilization by combining their abilities. The heat-dwelling species could access resources in hot regions. The cool water species could explore deep oceans. "What happened to them?" asked Captain Han. Hoon displayed images of the final chambers discovered. Environmental change. The planet's orbit shifted slightly, disrupting the temperature balance. The warm areas became too hot even for the heat dwellers. The cooler regions became unstable. Without the ability to adapt quickly enough, both species perished, Day concluded. Their specialized evolution became their downfall when conditions changed. On the final day of the initial exploration, something unprecedented occurred. The joint team created a special pool near one of the ancient sites. Using temperature control technology, they made one end cool enough for Keplerians and the other end warm for humans. Day, Jay, Min, and Hoon gathered there with both captains attending via communication screens. The ancient peoples of Thermex built physical barriers between their environments, Day said. They never found a way to truly share space. Min nodded. Their technology allowed them to work together, but always separated by walls and barriers. Jay had been preparing for this moment for months. His temperature adaptation training had reached its limit, still far below human tolerance but beyond what any Keplerian had achieved before. "I would like to try something," he said. "With your permission." Everyone knew what he meant. The middle section of the pool was set to 25 degrees, still cool for humans but previously considered dangerous for Keplerians. With careful movements, Jay swam toward the middle zone. His vital signs were displayed for all to see, showing his stress but also his determination. Min moved from the human side, swimming toward the middle as well. In the center of the pool, human and Keplerian met without a barrier between them for the first time. Jay felt the warmth as discomfort but not pain. Min felt the relative coolness as refreshing. The ancients of this world never learned to adapt, Jay said. They built technology but didn't change themselves. And when their world changed, they couldn't survive, Min added. We won't make the same mistake. Day watched his young colleague with pride. This is just the beginning, he said. Not just for Jay, but for all of us. Humans have shown us that limits can be expanded through effort and will, and Keplerians have shown us the value.